Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Coast-to-Coast Combat Hour. I'm your host, Matthew Hawkins. And as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Ed Carbajal. Ed, what's going on, my friend?
Nothing. All the seasons of the year passing through New Jersey this week as we're supposed to be in spring. Easter will be upon us this weekend, but other than that, keeping busy, doing my thing. I'm not too happy about the results of UFC 314, which we're going to get to, but there was other news that happened as we were recording last week, so that we should probably get into because we didn't get to respond since it happened as we were recording last week's episode.
Yeah, so it's like we never knew him. Apparently GFL is no longer or on hold or hiatus or I can't remember because apparently one sponsor decided that they were no longer involved, and that was enough to pull the plug on a fight card that had 32 fighters, all making probably a minimum of almost 100K based off their name alone. Just comedy shit show all across the board. And that's up for a week or two, but it was smoke and mirrors from the start.
Yeah, and that's of course, we're laughing about it, but the initial reaction, if you listen to what was it 2-3 episodes ago, we were rooting for somebody. We need somebody to fucking come in and be a good to fill the void that Bellator left when they disappeared. And we were hoping, at least I was hoping, that it could be the GFL. Now it looks like, I don't know how I don't know how things got as far as they did. I know a lot of people are kind of pointing the finger at Helwani because he was the scoop guy. Him grasping at straws for his own relevance. And it's like, dude, we really do. But he reiterated what I'm saying now is we need something. It's we're laughing about it, but it's really not that funny because what's going on with MMA now? Is MMA going to be UFC? You know what I mean? You say I train MMA. Now do we have to start saying I train UFC because they're the only big game in town? Obviously not. There's so many regional promotions. The Cage Warriors. There's a lot of people all over the world. KSW won championship for as long as you're still around, rising. So the sport is still MMA, but just like WWE and pro wrestling, we're literally on par, mirroring what's happening there.
Yeah, I feel like it's just the chickens coming home to roost after years and years and years of people like me and you talking about how this is eventually going to be what's going to happen.
Even Halo's upset about it.
Even she's pissed. To me that's what it is. Now we're seeing what we warned everybody about it, and not that we have the power to stop it, but we can still share our opinions over the years about this is what's going to happen if one company is allowed to control the entire market. And I've talked the last couple of weeks about how I'm just kind of numb to it at this point, and I just want to see the fights. And if the UFC is going to be the company that's going to get Aaron Pico, and speaking about Aaron Pico, it's funny, man. We've been talking about that guy for almost a decade at this point, and now suddenly he's a killer. How many years did we read articles of UFC fans calling him overrated, overhyped, just a Bellator fraud, all this stuff? We hear it over and over again. Now, don't get me wrong. People like Chandler and kind of Pitbull's performance over the past weekend don't do much to help that. But I do think it's comedy that's where we're at with Pico now, as he very well may end up being the face of the UFC for the next 10 years, which is hopefully the case, because if that's the case, they'll be in good hands and they'll have an exciting fighter who's helping lead the charge. But it's funny to see that he's this killer now, and it's just how it goes. But as far as GFL goes, I'm sad we're not going to get to see some of the matchups. There was a few that had me interested. I'm sad these people aren't going to get paid. I'm sad they had to sign up for something like this to make money after leaving broken down in the octagon after fighting for decades, most of these guys. It's sad that they have to resort to this, and that they don't have enough money in their bank accounts from their previous organization that made billions off of them to be able to walk away from the sport properly. Unfortunately, this is where we're at. We have a lot of free agents out there, and I honestly don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if this is going to be I don't know.
Yeah, some of them are like Holly Holm, for example. I saw Damon Martin put out that she asked her manager to try to get her back into boxing, which is crazy to me, because I thought with her having held a title and everything, I mean, maybe she just wants to compete. We really don't know I feel like some of the more recent fighters are hopefully learned from the boxing. Great boxing legends that have went bankrupt, that generation before them. They learned a lesson to be somewhat smarter with their money, but who knows? But it is messed up there. Like you said, there was fights we were looking forward to. People were in camp getting ready. Now, the last statement from Darren Owen, who's the GFL the person in charge of GFL, he said that they were still going forward in June, but it looks like it's at the expense of the fighters now. Like they have to something about taking a share of I forget what they're offering them. Whatever it is, it's whatever it is, it's like it doesn't seem worth it considering what they're trying to do. There's no prize in the fights that he wants. They're prize fighters, and there's no prize in the fights that he's offering.
No, there's a lot of promises if they make certain amounts of money. But the bottom line is, unless you were a main event fighter, you were probably looking at pennies if you got anything at all. It's wishful thinking. To me, like, this is an open door for Saki Kabara. I read something today about Ryzen Worldwide, something where they're going to try to expand. They got an event going in Korea with Satoshi headlining it, and I don't want them to sign all these guys because I don't want it to be a washed up league of UFC fighters. But like a female fighter like Alejandra Lara with her entrance and stuff seems to me like she would kill it in Japan.
Oh yeah.
And Thiago Santos, I know he's on the washed side, but guys like that going over there would add some excitement, and and that's just
even like, and I know everybody wants to tell Tony Ferguson to retire, but he obviously wants to fight based on what he's been posting on social media anyway. I would love for him to get a contract, give him 2-3 fights over there, let him do his thing. I mean, the guy's he's a Wing Chun practitioner that got into MMA and got his black belt from 10th Planet. I mean, he's somebody that I think would fit right into the Ryzen brand. So
yeah, I mean, I'd rather Ryzen kind of stay Japan based as far as like their main champions and stuff, but bringing these guys in as fillers and stuff.
That's what I'm saying. Like bring these outsiders in. Yeah,
but I don't want to see Ferguson given like a title shot. I don't want to see him be the champ, not right now. I mean, if he wins a handful of fights,
but let him get his fights.
Correct.
Let him get some fights.
I don't want it just to be off names where all of a sudden the next Rising card is Weidman versus Rockhold. That's not what I'm looking for. But if there's a fight for Weidman in that organization, then great. I just there's some names there that I think could be value and to help sell some of their events. I don't know if they have any thoughts to come into the United States. I mean, Uriah Faber's up there in age. I don't feel like Uriah Faber's taken a ton of head trauma as much in his career as some of these other guys. He could be a guy who seems like he could go over there. He's a smaller guy. There seems like there's some fights that could be kind of fun for him if you wanted to have that one more fight, or what I mean? Like, that's what I would do, especially on a New Year's Eve kind of show, where you're going to have 25 fights. Bring some guys over, add some mystique, have a grappling match. Maybe Dylan Dennis and Ferguson just want to do a grappling match to get their feet wet and get some action and get paid some stuff. There is some stuff out there. There's some availability. I'd like to see it. I don't know what the price on all these guys are. Obviously, Ryzen doesn't have the pocketbooks. But I'd like to think that Dana White has a good enough relationship with a handful of these guys that maybe he can help bridge the gap and work something out, realizing that he is the only show in town in the United States. And if he's not hiring these guys, then most of these guys are probably are not going to be doing well, So it'd be nice to see if that could be worked out. But who knows? It's not a great time for MMA. We got a lot of good fights. There's a lot of good names and stuff, so that's kind of hard to complain about. It's just we don't have them as spread out as we used to be, as far as, okay, I want to just check this event out tonight or that event tomorrow night. That's thinned out to the point where it's like, okay, well, who's fighting on the UFC this week? And okay, there is a PFL event. Like, let me glance at the card. Okay, there's 2 or 3 fights that I'm going to catch. But like other than that, like it's pretty slim. We don't hear. I mean, I know we've had some Invicta. We've had Invicta fighters on the show before. We've promoted them. We've done some live chats with the Invicta events. They don't really advertise like they used to. Everything's just kind of slowed down. And I got their posters on my wall behind me. I support them, but it seems like everybody got a little bit comfortable, and things have kind of fallen apart when just a handful of years ago they were really good for kind of everybody. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm hoping like maybe with all these options to stream events, like you look at Combate Global, like they did their thing with YouTube. They just announced their deal to be on one of the Samsung only channels or whatever. Like if options like that can if that can be, I don't want to say the equivalent of a broadcast deal, but like a broadcast deal, because the broadcast deal seems to be what makes these promotions survive, at least in MMA, even in boxing. Never mind. And when you think about HBO boxing, those are probably the best years of boxing for my generation, right up until they folded. So you look at stuff like that, maybe maybe these streaming options is where these promotions can find life. I mean, there's people that just know how to do it too. People that stay focused on their own backyard. I mean, the Cage Warriors of the world, and everyone else that's been around long enough to stay afloat and do their thing without trying to compare themselves to anybody else and mention everyone, mention the UFC just because they want to be number 2 to them. Like just worry about your own backyard,
No.
But yeah, it's. I hope that in the 2025, especially, the UFC's negotiating window open with the ESPN deal, so they can find a new broadcast partner. I'm hoping the move they make excites like the big streamers to pick up, wherever the UFC goes. I'm hoping like if they go to Netflix, I'm hoping Prime, looks for more than just one championship, because it looks like they might not be around next year either.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty clear they're not going to go back to ESPN. From things Dana White said in the past, I think
I hope they don't.
which is probably ideal at the situation. Netflix makes the most sense. The WWE's already on there, especially if they can get away from the fucking pay-per-view model. I mean, that's something that could actually like maybe make a big difference as far as like fans and just and it becoming more of a social event again, where where people get together, because I feel like the prices and everything made it so expensive that a lot of people just stayed home. Nobody wanted to chip in anymore. It wasn't chipping in $5. Now all of a sudden it's asking people for $25 to be part of the and I guess it's $25. A lot of people say, oh, it's nothing, but it is when you start talking about the amount of events they're putting on, and the fact of the matter is that people aren't going to pay for something where the average person only knows 4 names on a main card. And that's hopefully we're getting away from that for most of these cards, because we have seen some depth. But go ahead.
I do. I mean, obviously, we're an Amazon affiliate, so I wouldn't mind if somehow Prime Video became the one that wins the contract, or the one that wins the deal, or picks up one of the other bigger promotions that people like to watch, not just because of our affiliate relationship, but the one thing I think people are kind of like missing, because like if you use the Jake Paul Mike Tyson event was supposed to be like the test to see how they could handle live sport to that magnitude, and it didn't go great, but since they've been okay with pro wrestling and the WWE stuff they've been showing. However, Prime Video has been showing a lot of live sports for football, basketball and one championship for a long time. And it's pretty seamless. I've never had an issue ever with anything I've watched on there, including freaking poker, live poker. You know what I mean? So I feel like maybe they should. I hope they go deep in their pockets to grab them, because if they do, then we can get the. I'm pretty sure TKO Boxing is going to be part of the deal with whoever gets UFC on their platform, and you could make. I mean, the relationship they could have with Prime and Amazon, not just the broadcasting stuff, but obviously it's a store. You could sell so much merchandise through there, and everybody could make money, including us. Everybody could make money. Yeah.
I didn't think about that. That's true. So we'll see where that ends up heading. Who knows? Everything's up in the air right now. Even the biggest names in MMA media have no idea where things are headed right now. And I think it's the most confusion we've probably ever had in the sport in a long, long time. So we'll see. But the UFC did have a pay-per-view this last weekend. UFC 314.
I don't think we've ever been wronger about a card. I don't think we've ever had the worse picks than we did for 314.
I got the main event right. So that's about as far as it goes. I did have Volkanovski
you did.
over Lopez.
All my picks was probably the worst I've
but
ever
other
done.
than that, it didn't go great. I'm just going to cut to the chase. Let's just talk about Michael Chandler here. I got to congratulate Conor McGregor on ending his career without throwing a punch. It was he single-handedly did it. We talked about it. Michael Chandler decided in the middle of his hottest streak, or when he was one of the most popular names in MMA, he decided to sit out for 2 years.
Yeah.
To wait for a ghost to show up to the octagon that has talked about being a governor, mayor, president, talked about running every kind of alcohol company, bought into BKFC, did all this stuff while Michael Chandler sat there and said, he's going to come back for me. I said it was embarrassing months ago. Might have said it a year ago. Might have said it 2 years ago. I said it was the day they signed on the Ultimate Fighter that the fight would never happen. I said it on this podcast. Without a date, you can't convince me that crackhead McGregor is ever going to come back to the sport. Said it right here, 3 years ago now? I'm embarrassed for the guy. He was one of my favorite fighters to ever walk into a cage, to ever walk into a ring, anything. I'm embarrassed to have rooted for him. His performance the last 2 years has been nothing but embarrassing. Sorry, just is what it is. He's washed. He's washed, and I wish he would retire. I don't want to hear him talk. I don't want to hear him to call anybody out. I don't want to see him get knocked out. I don't want to see him tap out again. I was almost convinced he told Patty to finish him the other day when he realized he was hurt. He talked to him, and then within 30 seconds, he's curling up like it's WWE taking punches. I know he took shots. I know he got hurt. I know he went in there to win, but my God, I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed for what that guy's career has become. He's not Eddie Alvarez. Eddie Alvarez came to the UFC, won the championship, kept his pride the whole time, took losses, took a lumping to McGregor, an embarrassing loss, came back, put on wars. I don't know. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not asking you to jump in on that at all. I'm just embarrassed for what this guy, the last handful of years.
No, I don't, I like Michael Chandler a lot. I told you, he's the reason why I take my BCAAs at my age, and I'm still able to train, out of one short conversation in an elevator at the Viacom building here in New York. So, and that's helped me with my own training or whatever. So I'm not gonna disparage him at all. I mean, whatever he wants to do, I hope whatever he wants to, he's earned whatever he wants to do with his career. He's more than earned it with the wars he's and everything else he's done. So whatever he wants to do, I read something earlier that said, he's going to sit back and think about it because of the losses and stuff like that. And I saw something where if McGregor were to come back, but we already know that's not happening. And
McGregor finishes him in 1 round. Yeah,
well,
even on crack.
I would still want to see it, but I mean, I'm not gonna lie, man. I mean, if anybody follows me on Twitter/X, I was putting my GIF reactions up of how I felt about the losses that came off that card. I was wrong about every single one of my picks, and I mean that one bothered me a lot. Chandler losing, I didn't like seeing that. It did remind me of when I liked Patty a lot when he was in Cage Warriors, and it's more like the UFC fandom that kind of made me pull back from that. But that the way he carried himself after that is what made me remember his Cage Warriors stuff. And I was like, you know what? This is if there's going to be a guy, this is the guy for the UFC 155er. I like to see him face any of the names he called out. Good for him. He cracks me up with his Scouts Liverpool slang. Like I find it hilarious. So
I'm a fan of Patty. Been watching him since he was in Cage Warriors. Yeah. They were doing the chants for him early in his career. Nobody else knew who he was. Mm-hmm. People watched him. I'm glad he got the win. I mean, I was rooting for Chandler going into the fight, but I just can't. To me, it's just rough. It is. I mean, I don't even know. I don't know. I really wish. I think it's time for him to step away before he gets really hurt. I don't think And here's another.
I mean, listen. I agree with you because I mean, if you look at there are now several like collage photos of all the fights that he's done recently. His last 3 losses, and he looks. It's if I were his family, I would start. It would bother me. It would bother me a lot. It would bother me a lot if I was close to him, like the people that are close to him, to see him go in there every time and walk out like that. That's got to be hard for including himself. So I hear where you're coming from, but like I said, whatever he wants to do, let whatever he wants to do. I hope he does it, and I hope he gets what he wants out of it.
I'm with you on that. As a human being, I have nothing bad thing to say, not a bad word to say about the man. He's always been polite. He's respectful and everything. I just, as a fighter, it's hard for me. And I mean, we can say that. Would you pay to watch him fight at this point? Would you fork out $50 to watch him main event an event?
I mean, I like him, so
I'm not going to say no. Would you for it? Okay. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't pay to watch. Yeah. I wouldn't. I
like him. When I like people, I don't give. I like them when they win, and if they're losing,
that's true. I get that. I get that. I just don't. He's not a world-class fighter any longer. And here's another one for the UFC moronic play-by-play team. Explain to me how when Pitbull's fighting and losing to Rodriguez, there are levels to this game. Then the next fight, Chandler comes out, and all they can do is talk about is a killer. Let's not forget Pitbull knocked him out in a minute. So if there's levels to this game, then again we're being sold a bill of goods. I'm just sorry. It's just that everything they talk is out of their ass when they come to this stuff. Let's jump to Pitbull.
That one, not like, and yes, it's because of who he lost to too. But I'm like, as soon as that fight started, I was just like, "What are we doing here, brother?"
But that's how he fights. He paused like that and then he blasts dudes. I said it last week on the
podcast. I know that, but
the UFC gave him the worst matchup they could give him because they wanted him to lose. The UFC could have given him Josh Emmett, and we would have had two shorter dudes.
He did things that he doesn't usually do. Yeah, he does the pawing or whatever, and he wants to explode with the right hand. But he also kept taking steps fucking backwards. And I know that's to bait people into the punch, but when you're fighting a guy that likes to fight at range like Yair does, I don't know why anyone in his corner, I don't know where anyone, as soon as it started and I saw him doing that, I was already aggravated. Because I saw what we got. I saw what we got happening. I mean, with the exception of him, he had his moments when he grabbed the leg and made him fall on the ground. I mean, like, he had some really good moments around there, but it was like, and then the complaining and stuff like that too. Like, I mean, that's one thing I'll give Cormier credit. They're like, or Rogan, one of them were just like, yeah, dude, it's your UFC debut. You got a lot to prove here. Coming in with all the, because he left with the title when all this shit happened with Bellator/PFL, and it's like you're not bringing the right vibe in there. You got to come in there the way Chandler did when he first came, like a pro wrestling maniac. You know what I mean? Like damn it, dude.
I think if Chandler fought Rodriguez, you would have saw the exact same thing. I think you're talking about a lanky striker who hurts people from distance, and listen, Rodriguez isn't the GOAT. Obviously, we've seen him get his ass whooped. No,
he's gonna get hurt. He'll get hurt. Fucking playing tennis.
Getting better. He's getting better and better. Sure. I mean, he's not getting hurt in the fights. He's hurting people in fights. I mean, I get it. We don't like, but I'm just saying it was the worst.
He wants to fight in September.
The UFC knew what
something's
they
gonna
were
happen
doing
between now and September.
Yeah,
he's gonna pull his groin or something's gonna happen, and he won't be on that Guadalajara.
True.
Call.
I guarantee he's not going to wait for 2 years to fight McGregor. I mean,
who? Yair?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just saying. I mean, I Chandler, Pitbull didn't fight.
He has been out
great
for 2
fight.
years.
He's been out. I just
for various reasons.
Yeah, not waiting for somebody to give him a payday though.
Yeah, no, I know, but
I mean, listen. I don't even want. I shouldn't even talk about Chandler anymore. At this point, he's essentially irrelevant, which is sad. Maybe I'm pissed at myself for hyping him up and telling people that he would win fights because he's sure as shit it's been bad. It's been bad, and his reputation
I thought
and everything.
This was somebody he could take it to. I mean, I really did think he could take it to Pimblett just because, like when we talked about it, I for some reason. The Ferguson fight and Pimblett looking winded and stuff during that fight. I was like, that's where Chandler's going to get him. And the opposite actually happened. So.
But he did it again, man. He had his back. He went from having his back to being mounted and like getting his ass whooped in 15 seconds. It happens all the time. It's crazy. I mean, the minute he took Pimblett's back, I was like, all right, he's going to lose now. Like, it just, you knew it. And, I don't know. Here's the thing about Patty, too. Patty's fun. He's entertaining. The opponents that he's beat are Ferguson, Bobby Green, and Chandler. I'm not sure they've won any of those guys other than Bobby Green's won a single fight since Biden's first year, maybe. I mean, like, we're really talking these. I mean, so Pimblett's opponents are like 3 and like 22 in their last whatever amount of fights. It's not that extreme, but 3 and 15 or something like that. It's not great. I mean, we'll see what happens. I'm going to root for Pimblett at this point. He's fun to watch.
I would exciting. I'm interested outside of the Dustin because I know Dustin Poirier's next fight will be his last. So to me, that doesn't make any sense. But like of all the other names he called out, I wouldn't mind him facing any of those people that he called out. And even in the post-fight press conference, he was a little pissed that McGregor put money on Chandler. So he even offered to fight him. And maybe, Pimblett put some weight on. We won't, but, he even said he'd fight Colby Covington for a laugh since they almost fought that night. So, which I wrote about over at My MMA News if you want to see the details on that.
Yeah, I don't want him to get suckered into that one. That's another fight a guy who hasn't won a fight in a long time. He's trying to stay relevant. So hopefully he avoids that and starts moving on to more relevant fighters.
Yeah,
I see them talking about Justin Gaethje. I mean, we just got to figure out. They got to figure out what they're going to do with their title, right? Like, because I mean, Chael Sonnen obviously he talks a lot of gibberish as well. Sometimes he's right though. I mean, he's saying that he thinks Topuria got stripped. And honestly, if you needed a headlining title fight, you might have stripped him. If the UFC might do that behind the scenes. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the thing with we got to remember who owns the UFC now. It's a former modeling talent agency. So if you bring eyeballs like Patty does, like that we've seen it before. Rankings mean nothing.
But I'm talking about Lopez and Volkanovski becoming a thing, with no explanation of Topuria giving up the belt. No fight announced for Topuria. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Sonnen came out and said Topuria was actually stripped. They just didn't want to say that. And whether that's true or not, who knows? But it's a lot of influx going on right now. I don't know what to expect. Is Islam going to fight Topuria or is he going to fight Gaethje? Are you going to make Gaethje beat Pimblett now to get a title shot? Are you just going to give a title shot to a guy who never really defended his belt but went up to lightweight now? And I do Pimblett Topuria. Make Topuria beat somebody. Let's see if he can at least beat Pimblett and then give Gaethje the title shot. Gaethje's getting a little up there in the years. There's I don't want him sitting around for 2 years waiting for Islam because they're going to start feeding fights to other people that have the look they want or whatever. I don't know. I know I'm being negative this episode, but I was definitely frustrated by some of the stuff that went on last, between GFL
I wasn't happy. It was the GFL thing was I mean, it was odd. It was everybody was kind of comparing, including myself, comparing it to the Fyre Festival. If you haven't watched that Netflix documentary, and it was like the MMA version of that. And so I think I was more interested in why why it was even got as far as it did, then than what happened behind the scenes. But the as far as UFC, like the I was hoping all the Bellator fighters. I mean, so Aaron Pico's I mean, he's young enough that I hope he can make waves and stuff like that. I mean, it just, I think with Pitbull and Chandler, I mean, they just got there at the wrong time.
I think there's fights for Pitbull though. I think Emmett's a fun fight.
Mm-hmm.
I think he does better against a Volkanovski than he does against a Rodriguez. I think that styles make fights, and I think Rodriguez is a unique styled fighter that certain people are always going to have trouble with.
And I think the other thing too, what we might have to like think about is, I mean, Pitbull didn't exactly have like an easy transition there, so maybe that affected, because that could have had an effect on his. I don't want to say he had UFC jitters because he's fought on the big stages before, but I feel like with all the stuff, to the complaining and the stuff like that, that was just that's more of like some frustration that lingered because of his exit from the people he was dealing with. I mean, because everything that I've heard from the fighters that have dealt with the people at the PFL that made the contract issues, that who keep saying that they're free to go and not making it so easy, doesn't sound like good stuff coming from the fighters anyway.
No, but I'm not as down on Patricio. He lost the fight. He hasn't fought a 3-round fight in probably 10 years.
Which is another thing. Yeah.
He's a notorious slow starter. So giving away that first round is not necessarily un-Pitbull like. He just didn't have it. He got better as the fight went on. Had this been a 5-round fight, I think by round 4 or 5, I think we would have seen a much more competitive fight, because by rounds 2.5 to about 3, we did see Pitbull start to land some punches. He started kind of getting some clinching going. I mean, stuff started working a little bit better. So I don't completely write him off. I don't know if he'll be champion. I think that that's optimistic at his age right now. But I do think that there are some fights that if he's set up with the proper guys that have more of his body shape and aren't, when you get to this level, because okay, they can say there's levels. When you get to this level, I do believe that certain matchups just make it really hard. John Jones might not necessarily be better than certain fighters he beats, but his length and his stuff has allowed him to be able to win fights on scorecards, because he's able to pick up those points and win those rounds and make fighters nervous when they're at a distance because of the damage he can do and are afraid to come in. There might have been some jitters. We've said it, Pitbull's fought in some big crowds. Yeah. There still might have been some jitters. I just think it was stylistically, I think it was the UFC doing I think it was intentional to make sure they had the toughest matchup. We've seen it in the past. They don't want a Bellator fighter. What Bellator fighter have they ever wanted to come in there and just clean house? They don't want to see that. You need to be humbled for them a little bit. And then they're like, okay, now we'll work on you. Now we'll promote you. I feel like that was the case with everybody, that they tried to, that they threw in there right off the bat. They did it with Pride fighters. They did it with a lot of people trying to, let's just, so I don't know, but let's get to some good here. Alexander Volkanovski looked outstanding. Looked like the old Volk. Yeah. Lopez, I said it. I think this is a learning process for him. I didn't think he'd win this fight. I thought the old veteran would kind of do what he did. He basically Matt Browned him, what Matt Brown did to Eric Silva and what he did to Wonder Boy when they first came into the world of fighting. They ran into a guy who's a little bit of savage, and he beat him up, and he was more, and I think they'll learn from it, though. I think Lopez comes back better from this fight, having the experience, having been beat up it was a closer. There was some rounds that went his way, but for the most part, he got beat. So I think he comes back. I think Volkanovski is cool. I mean, he is who he is. We know what we're going to get out of him. We know he's always going to leave it out there. He's not really going to give us a boring fight. He's kind of going to go out on his shield. We've seen that already. We know he's not going to run from a guy he's kind of, having some issues with. And I look forward to watching him fight. I don't know exactly where the division goes or how we end up with everything, but I don't mind that he looked the way he did. He didn't just squeak it out. It looked to me like he
it was a good fight too.
It was a good fight. It was a good fight. So that was a positive.
I think they got the fight of the night bonus too. So
John deserved. Silva, I wasn't sure where he was at. I wasn't sure if we were getting hype. He looks good. His character's a little bit much for me. That's just me. So a lot of people aren't going to agree with that. I'm not into the big dog barking scene and all that other stuff. That's kind of to me. To me, it's kind of fake, but maybe it's not. Maybe he's just a psycho, and if that's the case, then go do your thing, bud. Fun to watch, though.
Dominic Reyes surprised.
Dominic Reyes looking good. Dominic Reyes starting to look like the guy who
that really surprised me. Yeah,
and that's a positive because we need light heavyweights. Light heavyweight is a division where we kind of need some guys. We can put together a handful of good fights now. So those are some really positives to come out of the event. Obviously, Patty getting a win. There was a lot of positives. It's just they weren't necessarily guys we were rooting for. But another huge positive from last week that we didn't talk about, Justin Wetzel fought in PFL and picked up the upset of the night. He was a minus 1,200 underdog, and he picked up the win. So Justin Wetzel moves on, one of our early guests. So that's definitely one.
I don't know if that's. He says he says he barks in behalf of his dead brother. They say I don't know anything about that, the antics stuff that anybody does, because it's not something I really follow. But
yeah, if that's the case, then that's different. But yeah, if that's the case, that's different. I'm not going to comment on that if it has something to do with his passed away brother and stuff. That's completely up to him. I don't care what he does. If he's paying homage to him, he can dance on his head for all I care. If it means something to him in that account. Genderoba picked up a big win. She's now the number one contender in the female strawweight division. So there's a lot of things came together in this event, and stories.
It was a good overall good card.
It was a good overall event. Like you said, it's just
Miami, fun card.
Yeah,
they come correct when they come to Miami.
Yeah, and we got the summer to look forward to, where we're bound to get some fights. We got some title fights coming up. I imagine we'll probably see Kayla Harrison. We got news of Amanda Nunes potentially coming back, which adds a little bit of fire to a potential fight with either Pena or Harrison down the line. Both of those sell. So I did
like that during that fight week that they gave Aaron Pico his own platform to answer questions and stuff. I didn't watch the interviews or whatever, but I mean to, because there's some clips, that the fact that they gave him a platform like that lets us know that whatever Coker and the folks that ran Bellator saw to pull him from the Olympic trials, the folks in the UFC see it too. And even Dana White, when they were asking about fighters that were potential free agents before they were, that was a name that Dana White said that Hunter Campbell and everybody else was high on. So I like that. Even his manager Ali shared that there's one of the web pages on the UFC website has Aaron Pico's face real big. As soon as it hits you, as soon as you click on it. So that's good, because that a kid his age, that lifelong competitor like that deserves it.
No, I agree. And like I said, from day one, he suffered a loss in his debut when he was hyped, and he shook it off, and he came back and has only become better and well-spoken, great. Just fun. I hope, like you said, I hope he turns out to be the one that is the.
Yeah, I hope he really gets to display the punching power, because everybody knows about his wrestling. It's his punching power that we know about it. We watch all his fights, but the UFC fans haven't really seen it yet. There's probably highlights out there that they're starting to look for, but just to see the explosive power that kid has in his hands. I remember I watched a training video where they were tossing the medicine ball at each other. It was him and McKee, because they used to train together before Pico went to Jackson Wink, and they were throwing the medicine ball like catching and returning, but taking the impact on their midsection. And I don't know if it was McKee. It was three of them two and a third person, and they were tossing it to each other. And whoever was taking the shot from Pico was like, damn, because he's just got such, wrestlers have such explosive power that once they translate that to striking, that's where, Chandler's right hand, why he wants to land it so much, because he knows he's got all that explosive power in there. Same thing with Pitbull, who's they have that short, stocky, something about the explosiveness and their punching power comes from the ground. So when if you have explosive power to like drive him for a takedown, imagine you put that all in the point of your fist. He's got a lifelong like power battery like build up of just that he puts into the pinpoint of his fist, and I really hope that he can display that in the UFC, because the body shot knockouts, I mean, some of those finishes from Bellator were just like, holy shit, this kid must hit like a freaking heavyweight.
No, I think he has all the tools. I hope the UFC just gives him, I'm not saying give him favorable matchups because I want to see even matchups, but let's just, let's not put him in a fight that's a totally terrible matchup for him. That like let's showcase the guy a little bit. Let's and I'm like thinking like a Dan Ige. I'm thinking like something like that, like a borderline top 12-ish fighter, and something like that. Knowing the UFC, they'll make him fight Rodriguez, but I don't know. I we'll see, but I don't know. I mean, overall, the event was good. Like I said, there was just some downers for us being fans of certain fighters who didn't perform. But you can't. That's just the fight game. That's how she goes.
That's how it goes. Yeah.
There is a BKFC this Friday in Omaha. They're always putting on shows.
There's also a PFL event in Orlando, Florida, at the Universal Studios backlot. I think the main card airs on ESPN2, 4 p.m., 5 p.m. Apparently, there's some problem with that. But the reason why I mentioned in the prelims, the homie Aaron Jeffrey fights Murad Ramazanov on the undercard. Clay Collard, Alfie Davis, there's some Brent Primus, Vinicius Sensi. There's a lot of good fights on that card. So if you happen to be off on Good Friday and you have ESPN on at whatever time that's supposed to happen, 4 p.m. I think is 4 or 5 p.m. is the main card. So it looks like it's going to be an early card on a Friday. If you're off and you can watch some fights, those are some fights to watch.
Fans can follow the show at Combat Hour on Twitter, Coast-to-Coast Combat Hour on Instagram. Follow me, Matthew Hawkins, at FightFanHawk on Twitter, MMA Hawk 21 on Instagram. Follow Ed at Carbizol on X, Carbeerzol on Instagram, Old Head Carb on Twitch. Thanks for listening, everyone. That's the action for this weekend. Anything else you got to throw out there, Ed? Or I think that takes us home for the week.
No, yeah, that's it. And then if you want to buy some podcast merch, you like this logo over here, there's a link for Millions. We got our hoodies and t-shirts up there. So if you want to grab some stuff before it disappears off that platform, please do.
All right. Have a good weekend, everybody. Enjoy the fights.